Pam's husband cheated on her. She was rightfully angry at him. How dare he do this to her, to them, to their family? They were having a difficult time reaching an agreement on alimony. Every time they got into an argument, she would throw his infidelity in her husband's face. In turn, he would tell her she was being difficult just because she was angry at him. Her husband thought she could get a job, so he didn't need to support her. He appreciated she stayed home with the kids all of these years, but now it was time for her to get back to work. He was certain that if she had looked hard enough, she would find something. After all, she had a college degree. Pam wanted to work, but she had been out of the workplace for a while. She looked for jobs every day, and finally she found something as a paraprofessional in her kids' school. Because she was the parent responsible for getting the kids where they needed to go after school, because her husband worked an hour away, it was the perfect job. She was really happy to find employment, and she was excited to be working with other adults after so many years at home. But the story doesn't end with her first paycheck. Even with this job, she made a small fraction of what her husband made. Her husband had no problem paying child support, but he did not believe he should have to pay alimony when she was now working. So their battle continued. Pam's husband didn't waver, and while they had an agreement on everything else, they needed a judge to decide this issue because Pam was not giving in either. By the time they got to court, Pam was so angry that they were still fighting over this that she decided she would bring up her husband's affair. She even called the mistress in to testify. She thought she had a slam dunk case because he was at fault for the breakdown of their marriage. She thought the judge would see it her way and would punish her husband for his conduct. So what did the judge do? The judge gave Pam alimony, but not because she found her husband at fault because of the affair. Alimony is never punitive. That means that even though you think your spouse should pay because they cheated or were emotionally abusive, alimony's purpose is not punishment. You won't get any more money just because your spouse might have been the primary cause of the breakdown of your marriage. So why did the judge give Pam alimony? Because there was a need for it. The judge assessed a variety of factors and determined Pam had a need for support. At some point, you will have to decide whether you are asking for alimony. When I ask clients this question, the default answer tends to be, of course I want alimony. But not every case is an alimony case. You could waste a lot of money fighting over spousal support because you feel like you should get it. But whether or not you receive alimony has nothing to do with how you feel and everything to do with need. Looking at support from the lens of the alimony continuum will help you assess whether alimony is appropriate in your situation. We are going to start at the beginning and work our way down to the end. Once we get there, you will have a really good sense of where you stand in this conversation. By understanding the factors, you will also be well prepared to speak with your attorney when it comes time to discuss settlement and whether you should stand your ground. The first step is to ask yourself if you make less money than your spouse. If the answer is no, you make more money than your spouse, your journey ends here. None of the other factors have such a defined litmus test as this one question. But think about it this way. If alimony is based on need and you make more money than your spouse, then you don't need it, even though you might want it. And if you say, but Renee, I make more money, but I still need it because I have so many bills, then hang around until we get to the last factor, because that will also explain why you don't have an alimony case. Sorry, I promised to tell it like it is, which isn't always what you want to hear. Okay, so let's say you make less money than your spouse, so we will continue on to the second factor. Is there anything that prevents you from working? This could be a health issue or perhaps caring for a child with special needs. I don't want to work is not sufficient. Unlike the first factor, your answer to this question is not a disqualifier. In fact, if you answer yes, you have a reason not to work, we might jump right to the last two factors to determine how long and how much support you'll receive. But if you answer no, nothing is preventing you from working, we can still carry on our analysis path. A no doesn't automatically disqualify you from alimony. We just have to work through the steps. This factor is one consideration, but it is not the only decision. Remember, Pam got a job, but she still got alimony too. Moving on. Do you have a specialized skill or certification? Notice I don't ask if you have a college degree. That's because a degree without a unique, marketable skill does not predict your employability. If you've been out of the workforce for some time, your bachelor's degree may have a nominal impact on finding a job compared to being out for a few years, but having a nursing degree, for example, which will allow you to jump back in without missing a beat. This can be referred to as earning capacity, and this factor is just another consideration. Regardless of your answer, you can still move forward on the continuum. However, if your answer is yes, you have a specialized skill, then alimony still might be awarded, but for less time. Its purpose would be to give you time to get back on your feet. That's called rehabilitative alimony. The goal is to get you up and running so you don't need support forever. Got it? Great. Let's keep walking down the path. What has your earning history been? Look at just the last few years because that's a good indicator of what you can earn in the future. It would be unreasonable for Pam's husband to expect that she could jump into a job earning as much as he did. Why? Because she never earned that much in the past. Your earning history is a good predictor of what you can earn moving forward. There are exceptions to every rule, so keep that in mind. For example, if you've been working part-time for the past 3 years and you have the ability to work full-time, your 3 years of part-time work will have less of an impact on your earning history and more of an impact on your earning capacity. Earning capacity and earning history are weighed heavily in determining whether alimony is appropriate. So what's next? The length of your marriage will determine the amount of time you receive support. If you've been married 2 years and you have a need for support, it will likely be a very short time. On the other hand, if you've been married for 20 years, chances are your alimony will go for much longer. Half the length of the marriage is a good rule of thumb as a starting point, but there are lots of reasons why this could be increased or decreased. This is a good discussion to have with your lawyer. Look at it this way. The longer you've been married, the longer alimony will be. Okay, we're almost at the end of the road. Once we've gone through this continuum up to this point and determined that you are a candidate for alimony, it's time to look at numbers. At the end of the day, you should not have a windfall of income while your spouse has dramatically less money to live off of. Let's say that your spouse is paying child support and once he does, your incomes are very close, or it looks something like this picture. This would not be fair. Your quest for alimony may end here. While you might need more money, who doesn't? If you were to actually receive alimony, the scales would be tipped in your favor, leaving your spouse little to meet his own needs. So while all of the previous factors play a role in the alimony analysis, the last factor, or the fairness factor, could outweigh everything else. At the end of the day, a court needs to determine that your agreement is fair, and if you were receiving 75% of the marital income, chances are a judge might say that it isn't. Notice that nowhere in this continuum is a question about fault. That's because it simply doesn't matter. While you might be emotional about your divorce, in the court's eyes, your marriage is a business transaction that needs to be liquidated fairly and equitably. It sounds harsh, right? But judges can't get involved in the emotional aspect of your marriage. Their job is to assess need and determine if there is a need, then look and see if there is enough marital income to satisfy it. Had Pam's husband gone through the alimony continuum, he would have realized that even if Pam worked, she had a need for additional spousal support, and he could have saved both of them a lot of money in legal fees. And while Pam wanted to punish her husband for his infidelity, that had no effect on what she received. However, this was a story of Pam standing her ground, and in her situation, she had every right to ask for alimony and not back down when her husband objected. We've spent so much time previously talking about expectations in this course, but it's also important to recognize if your spouse is bullying you and to respond by standing your ground. You will feel much more confident and comfortable knowing that you have the facts and justification to do so. This topic is a big one, so make sure you know where you stand on it. Let's recap. Alimony is not punishment. It is based strictly on need. So go through each factor to determine whether it's appropriate for you. And remember, your story is not over yet.